we were able to donate 82 hams and feed 82 families for Christmas as part of our fundraiser. So, which was absolutely fantastic because those hams feed 15 to 18 people apiece.
And welcome again, wrestling fans, episode 645 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Hall of Fame wrestling writer, broadcaster, and announcer Jason Bryant. And today, we go back to Little Rock. Yep, Little Rock, Arkansas. I was just down there announcing a tri-meet between Oklahoma State and SIU Edwardsville. Had a chance to sit down in the Hatcher Wrestling Center to talk to the head coach of the Little Rock Trojans, Neil Erisman. He is in his third year as the head coach. This is their second season. Their inaugural season, of course, as we know, was cut short via COVID-19. Although they didn't have anybody qualify for the national championships, everybody's season was cut short last year due to COVID. So I sit down with Neil in his office, and we talk about what it's like to have gone from the beginning where you had no wrestling room. Where we sat, there was a tennis court 2 years earlier. We had first visited for the Rocked Up series, which you can go back and listen to, the entire 12-episode podcast series at GetRockedUp.com. That chronicles not just the start of the program at Little Rock, but the start of high school wrestling, which led to the start of college wrestling, which led to the start of the first Division I wrestling program in the state, and the first major college to have wrestling in the state since the early 1950s. And as we chronicle in the Rocked Up series, Arkansas State actually had a wrestling program in the early 1950s coached by legendary Harold Nichols. But as we sit here and talk to Neil, we're going to talk about what it was like to go through that first season, what it's like to build a program with actually something to show for it, and some of their fundraising efforts, and how Little Rock Wrestling isn't just a wrestling team in Arkansas and a wrestling team at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, but how it's really impacting the community. If this is your first time listening, thank you. We've been doing this show for about 7 years, talking about news, reviews, previews, and interviews in and around the sport of wrestling. If you're a longtime listener and you're liking what you hear, I'd encourage you to contribute at madtalkonline.com/contribute. A couple different ways where you can help support the network and support this show. Not a whole lot on the front end, no short-time shots. We've got Division I wrestling. We've got coaches' polls out. We've got regular wrestling. It's going to be a condensed season. It's going to be a condensed run. But for right now, let's go back to Arkansas, visit with Neil Erisman. And as always, I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time for Short Time. Little Rock, Arkansas has become a mecca of wrestling in this state, not just because of Hatcher Wrestling and the Arkansas Wrestling Academy, but we've got a Division I program here, and I'm sitting with Neil Erisman. Been about a year since we finished the Rocked Up series. We chronicled the start of the program, the birth of wrestling in Arkansas, and now you're about to start year 2 at home. As we record this, you've got your alma mater in, Oklahoma State, and then you've got SIU Edwardsville in a try, and 2 home duels or home events that you're scheduling this year. And I believe the term has been unprecedented times that we've been in with the pandemic. But getting away from the pandemic, looking at how you've built this program and in year 2, have your expectations been fulfilled yet in year 2? Or I guess the best way to put it is wrap up year 1 and going into year 2. What's it been like?
Well, first off, it's great to be back with you. I mean, I know it's been a long time, but it's great to be back on here and talking wrestling with you and talking Little Rock wrestling. It's been incredibly challenging and incredibly fulfilling all at once. Just, you helped document year 1. Well, year 1 was not, we weren't competing. We ended episode 1 right before our first competition. And, we went out last year and we had a bunch of guys that really believed in what we were doing, and they wrestled hard and fought with everything they had. And, we fell short in every duel but one. But we had some really great moments. When you're walking out against the number 7 and number 5 team at intermission and you're winning the duel as a brand new program, that speaks volumes for what you've what you've done, the expectations that are here, and the standards that have been set. And we just got to keep building on that. And so, as the year went on, we had some tough matches. We lost, kind of got beat up a little bit, had had several, season-ending injuries to where we were one deep at every weight, but maybe two last year, and went into the Pac-12s, and we had two guys place, and then the rest, the way it works, if you place top four, and then we had everyone else take fifth. So to put that in perspective, the two that didn't, beside everybody who placed, they only won a couple matches, up to that point. So when you go into Pac-12s and you win two matches and you take fifth place, and it was a big deal for them, and it was a big deal for our program because it showed progress, and progress is the name of the game for us right now. Over the past year, moving into this year, we've made extreme progress from recruiting to the way that our guys have physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually developed. They've turned a corner. We're doing more than just winning a couple matches. We're competing in every single match. We're winning a lot of these matches, and I believe that we're close. We're close to getting our first win, and I know that. That might sound bad, but I don't care, because where we started, it hasn't been done like what we've done. There is no other program that's done what we've done in a long time, with no history, no tradition, nothing, except for one guy who had a dream to bring Arkansas wrestling on the map. And our standards and expectations have not changed, but we're being realistic with where we're at, and we know that we're on the right track, and that's what's important.
Talk about the history. We documented it quite a bit in the 12 episodes of Rocked Up, but when we talk about the term grassroots, there's no roots here yet. It's just grass. It's like you laid down some sod, now the roots are trying to grow. We've got I think 12, 13 years of high school wrestling now. We're starting to see kids that wrestled in Arkansas come back and now coach Arkansas high schools after their college careers, and that's where, like we see in Pennsylvania, that's where they get better, is their alums come back and they start teaching and coaching in their communities where they grew up and bring what they learned from college. So to see that start to trickle into the high schools has got to make you feel good as an Arkansas college coach.
Well, getting here, I'm not sure everybody understood what Division I wrestling could bring to the state. And it's pretty cool seeing the development and the change. It's pretty cool seeing, we got Arkansas kids coming every year that we feel good about, that we feel are going to make an impact. And watching, for instance, we had the first ever girls' state tournament last year. I think they had 135 girls in their first state tournament. Sanctioned by the High School Association. Sanctioned by the AAA, Arkansas Activity Association.
Iowa doesn't have that yet. Think about that for a second.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, because as we talk about, you are a Rolodex of wrestling information, but I don't believe there's another state that has a school at every division like we do.
We'll probably have to look at. I think Iowa does.
Iowa does,
but I think because they've got.
They don't have high school and
they don't college. Wrestling. You're right. They have the high school. No, they have college wrestling at every level.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that we'll have to look. That might be a pretty fair statement. Yeah. You got to make me do some homework, man. Yeah. That's the whole series has been on homework.
Yeah, but you enjoy that. So
I live for first, man. Like, that's why I'm here.
But, you're watching that development. You're watching these guys. We got a guy right here at Little Rock Central that wrestled at Ouachita Baptist, came back, and, he had, between men and women's, he had over 70 athletes on his team last year. He's in his third year, and he's just crushing it. And we got several guys like that across the state. We got some Oklahoma guys that have moved over. Guys like Ronnie Delk that used to be at Perry. He's doing a program in Northwest Arkansas. And so you're starting to see people gravitate towards here, and you're starting to see the potential of what it could be in 7, 8, 10 years of something that might not have to leave the state for most of our lineup. And that's really what we want. That's what every state wants. You want a lineup filled with Arkansas kids. And hopefully we can get to that point. We're making some good strides. And, once we get through this pandemic and we can do more, we're going to be able to provide more opportunities for student athletes at every level because of this program.
And you point about the Arkansas kids. A couple years ago, we look at Oklahoma State's attendance, which is, it kind of ebbs and flows based on the number of Oklahomans in the lineup. When you put 8 guys from state high schools in there,
the towns, communities you're going to want to turn out. Is that something you've tried to get here with, getting the Arkansas kids? Now, not all of them are in the starting lineup, but getting them so that their local communities will come and watch Little Rock.
Absolutely. We try to get the best kids from Arkansas every year because it's important. They're our base. There's also a culture here in Arkansas that is like nothing else I've seen when it comes to sports. They want Arkansas kids to be successful. They take pride. It doesn't matter if you're a Razorback or if you're, a Red Wolf or, the UCA Bears or a Little Rock Trojan, et cetera, et cetera. Every single person wants Arkansas kids to be successful. And if you can continually put Arkansas kids on the map and put them in your program, people are going to show up. I mean, we had 1,500 at our first duel. We had 1,000 at Arizona State, and the other duels we had 500 something people. And there's teams that have been around for 40, 50, 60 years that they'd be lucky to get 250 people. So I feel like that culture is starting to grow, and we're just now getting into people even recognizing us here locally compared to where we started. And when I started, I thought we had some fantastic support, and we did, but it's growing drastically.
When you look at everything that went on in building that year 0, year 1, before he even stepped on the mat for the opening duel against Ozarks a year ago, the lone win in program history, granted against a Division III school, but a lot changed. I mean, you lost some of your academic support, you lost your athletic director. There was all sorts of different things going on when college sports is different, especially at the mid-major level. So what did those challenges present to you as a coach after being, you had an AD that was finally gave the sport a shot, and then he moves off and now he's doing great things at his new job, but it's like, okay, I've got to almost start over in some respects. But Mr. Lee's been here for a while, so it's not like you had to reacquaint yourself, but new boss.
Yeah, I mean, to say that we started from scratch, that's one thing. But then when you start from scratch and then, half the administration leaves, and then the university was going through some realignment, some much needed realignment, and things were changing and flowing, and you throw COVID in there, and it's a wrench that nobody foresaw. Nobody was able to predict that we were going to start a brand new program, get going in one direction, and then run into a steel roadblock that we had to figure out a way. And I think that part of that process has made us even stronger, has made us more unique, because we can make it through anything. Like, we started off and we were, on a roll, and then it was like everything got thrown at us, even the kitchen sink. And we found a way to get through it. We found a way to recruit through it. We found a way to get our academics done through it. We crushed it academically, and we were able to get better and grow through all that adversity. So I would just like 1 year without all that adversity to see where we really can be, because where we're at now to where we could be if we didn't get through that stuff is we could be in a really bad spot. But we thrived through it, and we found a way to do more than make it work. Our fundraising increased, our recruiting increased, our academics got better. We got better student athletes, and we got guys that are here and that are serious about getting great education and winning a national title. And that wasn't easy through that process. So, I don't even know where to end that at. It's been a wild year and a half.
When we look at, you talk about getting better student athletes, that's one thing that it's going to be a sobering reality for your first year lineup, because from year 1 to year 2, there's going to be a lot of turnover, but there's also going to be, you're going to have kids come in that are better than your incumbent starters. So your lineup's going to be drastically different. What do you say to those kids that we're the first ones that find themselves bumped out now, or they're fighting for a spot, try to get back in that lineup? I mean, obviously there's going to be some disappointment in them not being able to be the starter, but what as a wrestling coach do you tell them? Because this is more unique than just losing a spot. This is brand new. You were the best guy in the room last year. Well, now you're not. And how do you, I guess, explain that to a student athlete?
Well, it starts in the recruiting process. We tell every student athlete that comes here, you're going to have great relationships, and part of those relationships are going to be guys that you compete against every single day, around your weight and at your weight, and you have to expect to compete with someone. You're not going to come in here and be handed anything. You're going to have to earn it, and you're going to be put in a position where if you do compete, if you do, thrive through that, you're going to have the opportunity, and that's for you to earn, and we're going to give you all those tools. So while, some of these guys, we bring good guys in, some of our, our guys that have been here are just out working some of them. And then you get some of the new guys that, they're out working, they're out wrestling the older guys, and it's brought a whole new level to our room. So, with that, our guys from the past, they knew we were missing competition in the room every single day. They thrived under that, and they didn't have it anymore, so they wanted it. And everyone wants it till it gets here, and there's that adjustment period, and that's when we got a lot better. When everyone realized there was a new level in our room, they stepped up to the plate, they put their best foot forward, and they started fighting hard. And I think that's only going to continue to happen over the next 3 or 4 years. And I think everybody in our program right now knows that. And the ones that realize they didn't want that, they're not here. And that's unfortunate. That's not what we want. But this is a sport that really, really shows who you are and your true character right away. And when you come here and you say you want to be a part of something special and you want to compete every day, if that's what you really want to do, then, you see those guys in our room. That's why we have 29 guys in our room when we started with 35. I'm not shy to say that. It's not a goal of mine for anybody to leave, and we don't like that, but we're building something here. And when you're building, you either get on board or you get ran over, and that's kind of where we're at.
Given your background wrestling at Oklahoma State and coaching at the high school level and then college coaching at Carolina before this, when you lose an athlete in terms of whether they quit, family things come up, they have to leave the program, whether it's they want to leave and they're done with wrestling, or they don't want to leave, but life happens. How much does that weigh on you now leading a program versus when you were, say, an assistant at Carolina and you guys had good kids come in and they just, this isn't for me? Yeah. Well, is there a difference between losing an athlete as a head coach or as an assistant coach,
Absolutely.
I guess?
Absolutely. People, there's the old cliche or the old saying that it's lonely at the top. Unless you've been in that position, you don't fully understand the weight that you have to carry, because you invest in these relationships with these kids, and these kids are sitting in your office and they might be crying. They might be, struggling. They might need mental help. But there's a harsh reality that you have to make a decision of what's best for the program. And I'm not going to get into whether or not I agree or disagree with how the NCAA penalizes us or doesn't penalize us, but you have to make harsh realities to protect your harsh decisions to protect your program. And I can confidently say there's not one student athlete that's left this program that didn't love us and love our program. They just simply didn't want to do it anymore. Maybe it was that competition. Maybe it was the daily grind. But they chose to move on for specific reasons. And we stay in touch with most of those guys. I mean, not all of them, but there's a lot of them that I still talk to, every few months to check on them, because they were part of this process. They were, a brick in this foundation. And just because they left doesn't mean that they're irrelevant or not important. But at the same time, we have to do what's best for this program, and we got to continue to march forward. And they're either with us or they're not.
When you look at the athletes that have come through, I guess we'll talk about recruiting a little bit. Right now, we're still in the dead period. So pre-pandemic, you still had a chance to recruit after you won. Now that high school athletes saw that, okay, you're not selling a promise or a vision. We have a product. So how much easier was it the second time going through the recruiting process when you actually had you had bodies on the mat you could show, look, we've got a match. Come on down, check it out. Here, you do your visit around a match.
Yeah, we mentioned it in the Rocked Up podcast of standing on the middle of a tennis court, or old tennis court, and pitching the idea, and it was kind of like
there was a tennis court where we sit right now.
Yeah, so we were probably in the back left corner of the tennis court right now where we're sitting. But when you have something tangible, and then you have people to back that up that say, hey, this is who we are. This is the direction we're going. And this is what we're building, and we want you a part of it. That changes your recruiting. Just like putting a product on the mat changes your recruiting. And right now we're recruiting really well. I think we're doing a fantastic job. But it has changed drastically since day one. Walking around campus trying to paint a picture out of thin air to these guys, to showing them a product, to showing them our recruiting classes, to showing them our new hires, and showing them that we're serious.
When we look at your relationship with the school, because your office is off away from where the rest of the large portion of the administration is, athletic administration in the Jack Stevens Center. How do you walk around representing Little Rock wrestling on campus every day?
With my head high. I'm proud to be here.
How many questions you get, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at, is when you walk around and people say, oh, wrestling. You still get those?
Yes. Yeah. We have, like, for instance, we do an annual ham sale, right? And I'm not here to sell hams.
Heard it was huge. Heard about it a lot last night.
It was awesome. But I'm sending out through the Fact Focus, which is like a online listserv for our school, about our ham sale. And this is my third year being here, in the middle of my third year, second year competing. And we have professors that still don't know we have a program, right? And that's not hurtful. It's just our campus has changed so much, kind of like what we talked about. When you go through some stuff that our campus has gone through and now we're thriving, you have new people. You have people that are turning over that still, this is all brand new to them. So getting the support that we have and knowing that it's brand new to still 75% of people on campus, it's kind of cool because it shows you that we're doing the right things. We're getting the word out, and we're making this happen. We're not just limping along. Like, we're making it happen, and people are getting on board on every step of the process.
Ham sale, though. What's that about? I am curious.
All right. So we do a Christmas ham fundraiser. We go buy the hams. We custom smoke them or sugar them. We sell them, and like, for instance, our guys will sell them back home, and then the day they leave to go home for Christmas break, we smoke them or sugar them. They load them up in coolers in their trucks and their cars. They drive them home, and they hand deliver them. Like, for instance, we go to my in-laws in Oklahoma. I delivered 75 hams to people in Oklahoma on my way home. And then
that must have been a long time in the car on your way home.
It was an all-day event. They were. I literally filled the back of my truck with ice and hams, and I left at 4 a.m. and got after it.
Just please don't get rear-ended, right?
Right.
You're so paranoid about the ham in the back of your truck.
Don't hit me in the hams. But it's just a great fundraiser. We did 350 hams. We coupled it with partnering with a food bank called it's a parent company called Every Arkansan, and they support Arkansans from the roof over your head to the food you put in your body to the clothes you put in your body to any mental help, physical help, going to the doctor, and it's called the Arkansas Dream Center that's under it that does the food part. We were able to donate 82 hams and feed 82 families for Christmas as part of our fundraiser. So, which was absolutely fantastic because those hams feed 15 to 18 people a piece. So,
and they can feed, and not to mention what you put in your freezer. You've got, it's like after Thanksgiving, you get all this turkey stuff left over. Christmas hams, that's the thing. And you're going to be eating, you're making ham soup, you're making ham sandwiches, you're making meals upon meals for these things.
Yeah. I mean, if you feed 82 families and you probably feed them 5 to 6 times, that's almost a week's worth of food. And there's a lot of people in our state that, live below the poverty level, and knowing that we're able to help them is a pretty cool thing, because that's part of, our process here is building relationships in the community, one by one professor, one student, and one person in the community we want to bring into our program and make them a part of it. And we got a lot of attention over that. It was in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, which is, to put it in perspective, there's only a couple million people in Arkansas, and that's the main paper. That's what everyone buys. And we were in the front page, the spotlight, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't for just our wrestling program; it was for our service. And that's important for our guys to see, because they're here. They got good lives while they're here, and they need to understand what the rest of the world is like, and that they can take time out of their day from getting a great education and win a national title to serve others. And that's really what, that makes you happy. That's what we're called to do, is to serve others. So that's a big part of our program is service. We serve, we do 25 hours of community service a semester. This year's way different because trying to help serve is different. But we did 8 hours of community service at City Serve, which is it's under every Arkansan, and it's a place where there's 3 giant warehouses, and everything from shoes to couches to, you can build an entire house there, goes there. Companies donate it, and then they push it through the local churches to help people in need. And so we went and we cleaned up their entire warehouse, and really helped them fill a need that they needed. And that's just a big part of our program is service. And so that tied into our ham sale. We try to tie it into everything we do.
Greg Hatcher has been kind of one of the architects of Arkansas wrestling. His book is about servant leadership and outstanding service. How much of his influence, obviously it's all over the program, but things that you were just talking about, that's not in any coach's manual. How much have you learned from a guy like Greg Hatcher with those type of things throughout the course of your couple years here?
Holy smokes. I mean, the guy's incredible. I get to do things like, for instance, I've done probably 4 or 5 videos where it's a tribute video that a different organization is honoring him and thanking him for his contribution. And I just did one the other day for the Arkansas Children's Center, which is like, it's a place where kids who are going into foster care, who are going into, trying to find a home to be adopted or whatever, they have a place to go. And this organization helps facilitate that. They take care of them. And, they have hundreds and thousands of kids that are just looking for a place to stay. And, he's being honored by them, and I had no idea. And so his influence, reading his books are great and you learn a lot, but spending time with him and knowing that, this guy, he doesn't just go out and make a lot of money. He goes out and he serves people, and in return, that's his blessing right now. And you can see that he does a lot more than just, he's not out here just trying to hustle money. He's out here trying to help people. He has an entire complex that supports kids to come and do athletics of every type, from equestrian to soccer. And his generosity, but his physical effort that he puts into all of it, you can't replicate that. And just to be a part of it and understand it and try to incorporate that into our program has already been a winning, a winning product for us.
I was thinking about Greg, beginning of the college football season, where, granted, we're going to be talking about another Arkansas school here for a brief moment, but his son's playing quarterback now at Arkansas State after transferring from Alabama. And then there's that win over Kansas State beginning of the year. You're from Kansas, and then there's your friend's son beating Kansas State. It's kind of cool to see, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this, like, Lane Hatcher, wrestler, putting him out there. So what was it like to kind of see that materialize on TV?
It was fantastic. Like, Lane's the type of guy you want to root for. He's a hard worker. He's humble. He's a winner. He's a competitor. He could have played college baseball. He could have probably wrestled in college. And he chose to go to football, and he chose to go to Alabama. And he was killing it there. But football's a different animal. You need an opportunity. And when you got Tua and then you got Mac Jones in front of you.
Hindsight there, like, okay, Tua, Mac, okay, I I see the issue.
Right. And you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell this, but I don't think Lane will care. But, you know, he was number 2 when Tua left. And then they brought in a whole new crew, offensive coordinator and everything. And, you know, he dropped to number 5 or number 6, and that's when he chose to leave. And then he gets to Arkansas State. He's freshman of the year, and he's crushing it. And then the next year, the pandemic hits, and coach decides we're going to split time with the quarterbacks, you know, just out of nowhere. And he's still leading the country in so many different things. He's still on so many different watch lists for being drafted. I don't think he gets enough credit for all the adversity that he's gone through. And when he finally, you know, I think he's finally going to get that opportunity with Butch Jones, who was at Alabama while he was there, got to spend some time with him. And I think he's going to light it up, and people are going to be like, where did this kid come from? And we're all going to be like, he's been here.
We know. I mean, even people from, I was like, yeah, wrestler. I mean, I went back through and looked up some of the results, and I remember when Greg was starting Mighty Bluebird, and they went up to the Brute Adidas Nationals in Kansas City. I think Lane was like in the first grade. And it was like the first time I'd ever seen an Arkansas kid ever win a tournament. It was early, and I've seen that name in wrestling results. So it's kind of cool. Again, we're just talking about Arkansas State, and we'll shift things back to here. But again, it's cool to see a wrestler from Arkansas perform. You said it. Arkansas people are proud of Arkansas people, no matter what they're doing.
Absolutely. And then, you know, Greg's oldest daughter started playing basketball at OSU or Oklahoma State, and then transferred to Arkansas and did really well. His middle daughter led the country and went to Arkansas to play soccer. Was there for a year, led the SEC, transferred to Ouachita Baptist. Wanted to be at a Christian school, and crushed it. Led the country in Division II in soccer, and then he's got a daughter that's at. He had another daughter who went to Harding University here in Arkansas, and just absolutely lit it up to play soccer. And then he's got a daughter who plays basketball at Arkansas State, and she walked on this year, and she's already earned a scholarship, and she's already, I think she's I'm not much for basketball, so correct me here, but I think she's number 6. She's first one in, and she's doing great things. And so, but I think that comes from how they were raised and how they grew up, and all the things that we talked about with Mr. Hatcher that have helped me, because his kids can withstand the adversity. His kids can go through that, and they can do it with a really just a gentle humbleness, but a fierce, just being a fierce competitor all at once. So learning from him is more than just learning about business. It's more than just learning about recruiting or fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. It's about learning how to raise your kids. It's about learning about life and just how to navigate it all. And he's been through a lot, and he's taught me a lot in my short time here, and I can hope that I only can continue to learn from him.
Now, we talk about building a program. You brought Javi on, who had head coaching experience in building a program at Southeastern in the NAIA. We've seen them continue to do well with coaches that he trained and working with the local community there. A lot of similarities between what he did at Southeastern and what you're doing here. And bringing him aboard, and now a year after bringing him on, what's that relationship been like, and what's it like being able to have a ride or die when it comes to building this program? Gosh,
you couldn't have said it any better. My wife and I actually had this conversation about 3 nights ago, just about our staff. And I got a lot of good things to say about Coach Rogers. He's been kind of like a little brother. I don't even know, he's bigger than me, but he's been like a little brother.
He's a little thick right now.
Yeah, he's definitely hefty. He's been like a little brother to me. But Coach Javi has been, I don't know if there's enough words to say about what he's done, not just for me, but for this program. He's the perfect complement for me for this program. He has come in, and we've gone through some crappy times since he's been here. Like, just with all the things that happen, on campus and things that.
Well, losing no matter, it's still a startup, but you don't like to lose.
No, heck no.
And you knew there was going to be a lot of losing the first couple of years.
Yeah, and he's helped me keep perspective. He's been through it. He's older than me. That's not easy for a man to come into a position where, on paper you're below someone as an assistant coach, and you're older. You've been through a little more experience in different ways. And the way that he's been graceful, and he's made me feel like I'm the man, and he's honest with me. I couldn't, it was a blessing. There's no other way to put it. Having Coach Javier here was a blessing, and he's an incredibly hard worker. I would be hard pressed to find anybody that can keep up with him. That I think he's going to make a fantastic head coach one day. Hopefully, it's not for a while. Hopefully, we can keep him for a while. But if someone can take the time to look into him, they're going to get a fantastic coach.
Now, you talked about Coach Rogers, of course, Chandler Rogers, who came on, had a career at Oklahoma State, very exciting type of wrestler, funky, junky, brawling. He brings the whole toolkit to it. Now, what's it like having another body in the room that's still got gas in the tank to go with these kids? It's not like, I got the kids at home, I'm a little worn down. He's a battler. What's it like to have him in the room now?
It's a breath of fresh air. It was renewing. It gave us a jump start. It gave us a new direction. It benefited us in so many different ways. It's hard when you're trying to be on, and we haven't been able to do this, but it's hard to be on the road recruiting and only have two guys. We need two guys on the road. We need one guy running practice. We need to get out there, and that's going to be a huge benefit, but it's also a huge benefit to have a different perspective. And when you talk about, I heard the new Jets coach talk about this, and I was like, man, he couldn't have described our situation better. You need a diverse staff. And not just talking about diverse from the color of your skin or the culture you come from, but diversity in how you guys coach and the way you think and the way you believe, and you need a diverse culture that meshes and fits well together. And I think my wife said it best. She's like, you got a group of guys that are here for what's best for this program. There's no egos. We don't have conversations about who gets the credit. There is not even a feeling of that. There's no conversations about who's coaching who. This is about how do we help young men grow to be men that know who they are and what they stand for when they leave here. How do we help them get a great education, and how do we win a national title? And I can say every single day that we show up, we have that attitude and that culture and that mentality. We have a lot of fun, work really hard, and it's because we have diversity on our staff of different types of diversity, that from different backgrounds, from different cultures, different parts of the world, that have helped us. And Coach Rogers has brought a huge dynamic to our program. The guys know him. They've seen him. Some have competed in the same arena as him, but they can feel his intensity.
So when we look at, I guess, the learning curve, expectations, performances be what they may, how much did you learn about not just your kids, but being a coach once you finally had a product to put on the mat that was your own?
Gosh, if you don't look in the mirror from the beginning, you're going to get blindsided by your own ego. You're going to get blindsided by your own ambition to win as fast as possible, and you can lose perspective of the bigger picture really quick. I feel like when you start a program, you start with these incredible expectations and dreams, and if it can get crushed pretty quick, when you're used to winning. I mean, just to put it in perspective, I went to Oklahoma State. They just won their 4th national title as I came in. We were top 5 in the country, number 4, bringing home, team trophies. Then we had a terrible year, and we worked hard to get back to being top 5. And we had some really, some terrible things that were going on that we were working through while I was there.
And at Oklahoma State, like 5th is not what you're shooting for.
I mean, people are calling for your head. I mean, it's like, why is this kid wrestling for us? Type attitude, and not necessarily me, but just in general. And then
he's only ranked 7th in the country. What's he in the lineup for?
Yeah, I mean, but that's why they're great, is because they have those high expectations and standards that they keep. But then I was a graduate assistant. We took second a couple times, and that's that was awesome. But it's still that somber feeling if you don't win a national title, and but there's a big difference between being there and being where we're at. And then I went to Stillwater High and we won a state title and we were number 10 in the country, as a coach. I had Chandler Rogers, had Cade Brock, had Tristan Moran, Andrew Neiman, who you're going to see today at wrestling Oklahoma State, and a lot of other really good guys. And then I went to Carolina, and we weren't great, but we started winning quick, and we had All-Americans quick, and you were able to fill that want and that void and that passion to win. And then you come here and you got to keep it in perspective. You can't lose your standards, you can't lose your expectations, but you do have to celebrate the little things. And it's hard for someone who's so competitive to say, man, we had a great duel. We wrestled so-and-so who's number 5 in the country and we won 3 matches. Well, the perspective is that we could have got pinned every single match, and that's a reality, and we didn't. And we showed up, we did some things that we weren't supposed to on paper, and that's where you can really lose your perspective. And then it creeps out into the way you talk to your team. It creeps out in the way that you recruit. It creeps out in the way that you start, you can become negative really, really quick. And that's when you need that staff. That's when you need to know who you are, what you stand for, have that foundation in your life that holds you solid so that you can keep going in the right direction and make the right decisions. Because at that crossroad where it's not going where you want, you have a decision to make. Are you going to stick to the plan? Are you going to continue to believe in the things you believe in? And are you going to fight for that? Or are you going to take that quick, easy route? Maybe you got that kid who is not a good, he's terrible for your culture. He doesn't fit what you're doing, but because he can win, you're going to grab him. You got a hard decision to make. And that's where I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about how to protect yourself, work through things, how to work through adversity, that it's never what you think it's going to be. And sometimes it's way better and sometimes it's terrible, but you're going to get through it and you're going to be a lot better from it.
Looking at last season before the pandemic shut down college sports and pretty much most of the country, Pac-12 tournament came and went and you didn't get anybody through year one.
Yeah.
How hard was that ride home, that trip home, knowing that, well, we're not going to be in Minneapolis?
Well, when we left, we had a little bit of hope that Paul was going to be an at-large. We really thought if he would have wrestled in the Southern Scuffle, we believe he would have been ranked. He had a staph infection, couldn't wrestle, really stunk. He was wrestling really well. We left with a little bit of hope, and you always got to have hope, because if you don't have hope, sometimes you don't have anything. You got to. I
think that was in Shawshank Redemption, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably. It's a good movie, but we left with that hope, but also we left with some encouragement because we had guys do things they hadn't done all year. I mean, we had kids get their first win, their first Division I win, and they got 2 at the conference tournament over kids they had no business beating, if we're just being honest. And we left with a group of guys that were beat up and injured and hurt, and they still put their foot on the line and they still fought. And then most of them came back this year and are so much better from it. We left that tournament boys and we came home men with our heads high. And again, you got to keep perspective. Maybe we didn't get anybody to nationals, and that's not acceptable by my standards. But considering where we started and where we ended and where we're at now, I'm pretty dang happy with what we got and the direction we're going, and knowing that this is a process, that it's part of the process, that I don't ever want to go back to where we were. So I'm going to keep marching forward and fighting. And we got to protect things, and it starts with our culture. And we got a great culture right now. And we got a group of guys that want to win, that are doing what it takes to win, and it just takes time. But they're doing everything right. So looking back, yeah, it stunk knowing we weren't going to get someone to the national tournament. But I felt good about where we were going.
One other thing that you got to feel good about was, granted the schedule being what it was, but USA Wrestling did move the calendar around, so the U23s and the junior age brackets tournaments were held, and you started seeing a lot of guys in the results in the placement matches at Arkansas RTC. How much has that kind of helped in the midst of you're limited with your practice time and such, but getting guys mat time and everybody's starting to notice that, whoa, things are going down in Arkansas when you see your guys place at these things. I mean, it's freestyle, it's Greco-Roman, but I mean, that mat time definitely seemed to benefit you guys. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, a mat time is going to benefit people, but like you're going, again, waters that have never been swam in before.
We didn't know what we were getting when we walked into U23s and juniors, and we left doing backflips. If I'm just being honest, I think we had, I don't know, 8 or 9 guys placed between both styles. We had, one in the finals of both, I'm pretty sure it's in the finals of both. Greco and freestyle, we had another take third, and several others placed. And we had several lose in the placing round. Like, it wasn't like we were doing bad. I felt like we crushed it. I was getting text messages from other college coaches saying, "Holy crap, you guys wrestled your tails off this weekend." And I was encouraged because it wasn't like we just trained the whole year for that one tournament. It randomly popped up, and the encouraging thing was that I had 22 guys sign up to go. And I was like, guys, listen, given the COVID and the pandemic here, you're going to have to pay your own way. Like, this was not expected. This was not planned for. I can't go to the administration and say, hey, we got to pay for this, right. Because budgets are tight right now. And they loaded up. They went there on their own. We found a way to go with them. They represented the Arkansas RTC for the first time ever, and they freaking crushed it. And it just showed that, and we kind of talked about this earlier about new guys coming in, but it showed that the new guys we brought in elevated the level of our wrestling, and it helped those guys who were here before. And it showed that we were going to wrestle some more freshmen this year. And it turns out we got 8 freshmen in the lineup, or 8 or 9, but we got 8 or 9 freshmen that are stinking tough. They might not be winning every single match right now, but they ain't getting pinned, they ain't getting beat up, and they're there. They're right there to win it. I mean, I got a true freshman 25-pounder that wrestled 2 top 20 guys last week and was winning with short time left, and was lost both matches because he was trying to separate the score and distance himself from 2 top 20 guys, and that's something you can work with. That's something you can live with, and I think juniors and U23s really showed that we're different than anybody even expected.
In how you described it, it seemed like there was a real, I guess, organic way that the guys said, all right, we're going to go wrestle in this thing. Obviously it's not a Little Rock directive. It was, hey, coach, we want to wrestle in this thing.
Yeah. Like I walked out and I said, hey, they just announced that U23s and World Team Trials are in Omaha. I think was it November or something? Yeah. And I was like, just let me know if you guys want to go. We'll try to figure it out. And next thing I know, I got almost the whole team that wants to go. And here I am going, how are we going to make this work? Yeah. But we're going to make this work because it's important.
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
It's got to be nice to see as a coach that you have that many guys that want to buy in without really, you're not saying, hey, we're going to go to this. It's like, well, if you want to, and then everybody kind of bites.
Yeah, because I can force them to do all the things they want, but we got to have that want to do it. And it was nice to see that.
As we roll into your third year, the second year of competition, what's one thing you want to tell the nation about Little Rock Wrestling?
Little Rock Wrestling is a place that you can come, you can be the first, you can be a trailblazer, you can be unique, you can bet on yourself, you can double down on Jason Bryant and come here, and you can be something special. That in a world where everybody follows everybody, we're unique enough to where you can come here and be yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to go put my name on the map and help build something special. And we're doing it the right way with the right culture. We crush it in the classroom. You can get a great, valuable education with great relationships here. You can win a national title here with our facilities, our budgets, everything that the school has done for us. And then you're going to know who you are when you leave here. You're going to know that identity of what you stand for, and winning's going to be a byproduct and just a standard that's here that's not. We're way bigger than that, and our culture breeds that. Our culture produces that. And you're going to find out real quick when you get here that if you don't get on that train, if you don't get on that train of living for something bigger than yourself, controlling the things you can control every day, having great relationships and competing with each other every day because iron sharpens iron, then you're not going to fit here. You're not going to make it here. But if you do, it doesn't matter what you got on your chest. That type of culture is going to breed success, and it's already showing. And it might not be in the wins and losses columns of our duels right now, but you know when you walk in that room every single day that we're going in the right direction, that when you turn around, you look at this program in 5 years, everyone's going to be like, where the heck did that come from? And it came from those who believed, those who bought into everything we talked about, didn't care what the outside world thought, and just kept moving forward through all the adversity, through the good times, the bad times. We stayed even keel, and we just kept trucking along. And that's what I want the world to know.
The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Sportswear. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. Hey, you know what? Did you like the show? You want to hit that subscribe button? MatTalkOnline.com/listen. Various different ways to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcatcher of choice. And if you're already subscribed, you're already listening, you love the show, and you want to support this show and this network, MatTalkOnline.com/join the team. Become a team member today.